Nick Dutch back again one more time, great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch back again and on the camera. So it's great to be here. Now I've been doing this little series which I called The Experiment, in which I tried to look out for positives in things that we'd otherwise regard as being negative. And I've done a couple of videos on that so far, and I've got a few other things to do, because essentially right now there's like different groups who like really hate each other at the moment, and I don't like that, and I think that it would be great if we could all like be in peace. So I'm going to look at things such as paganism, Christianity, and try and find positives in both of them and try and bring them together, and also to try and do the same thing with all kinds of other weird stuff. Okay, that's just like my goal for this particular series. But at the moment, I'm just going to tell you what has been going on inside my mind, and this is just based upon things that I've read, things I've seen, because, you know, for my work I spend a lot of my time right there, sat at the computer keyboard beside the telephone, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for internet chat to go so I can talk to people. And between calls, I go onto Facebook, I go onto Google, I go onto my Twitter account and look at all kinds of things, and I follow people from a wide variety of different economic and political persuasions, so as I can try and understand where they're coming from, and maybe I can, you know, refine my own ideas. I can try and search out for some more specific facts about the way the world is and try and work things out. Now recently we've had this wonderful situation of a really, really good thing happening. In accordance with, you know, my knowledge so far to date, by, you know, the time of which I'm, you know, putting out this video, or at least recording this video. I mean, during the time when I've like set the camera going to, like this very moment, this very second, something else could have happened on the news that I'm completely unaware of, but that's beside the point. I'm just telling you what, you know, I'm aware of at the moment. You know, the West is not going to bomb Syria. Okay, that's a good thing, because essentially, you know, no chance of like really, really bad things happening and millions of people dying, which I personally regard as being, yes, clears the air, you know, the little boy of the West and the little boy of the East is kind of like make friends, never, never break friends kind of thing, or something along those lines, right? Or at least they're not going to kill each other like crazy and start, you know, something bigger, because all the like the Middle Eastern countries are a little sensitive at the moment, okay? They're just that little bit more, you know, just like a few things you don't want to say, a few things you don't want to do, that sort of thing, just try to keep everyone nice and happy. So sending like, bad move, right? Okay, not going to happen. Great, wonderful, sigh of relief. But what if the action of not bombing Syria has some negatives to it? Think about it. From the information which I've had and I've seen, which could actually be bad sources, I admit that, okay? So I'm not going to turn around to you and tell you that I've got hard and fast facts, I know everything, yes, I'm the great guru of the universe, because I'm not. I'm just some guy called Nick Dutch who happens to spend a lot of his time finding stuff out, okay? According with my understanding, is that there was supposed to be some kind of pipeline which needs to be finished. This is an oil pipeline, and it goes through Syria, kind of like north-northwest region, going towards Europe, to provide oil for Europe, and it needs to be completed. Okay, so some individuals and groups think that maybe one of the reasons we are going into Syria is so that we can stop the civil war there, put in our own dictators or whatever, so that we can then bring about peace, complete the pipeline, and bring oil to Europe, right? And of course the UK. That's one interesting point of view, and maybe, you know, there's question marks about, you know, whether this is just about humanitarian issues and chemical weapons and all that kind of fun stuff, or whether maybe there's something else involved in it, such as oil. Not necessarily that Syria's got tons of oil, it's only got about 0.5% of the world's reserves or something, you know, quite a small quantity. It's not, you know, it's not a massive quantity. I think it's 0.5, I'm not too sure. So it's not a question of them having oil in their land, but there's an important pipeline going from the oil-rich regions through Syria to the rest of the world. Interesting. Extra question mark. Now, it would be a lot easier to work in a country which is not full of civil war. It would be a lot easier to try and like get all of your infrastructure together to sort out a problem like that if there isn't like people like gunning each other down in the street, warring factions and that sort of thing. But hey presto, the West has not had the ability to subdue Syria due to the involvement of Russia, all of the stans, I think it is, or well, the Arabic countries, including of course Iran, and you know, it's all been a bit of a muck up really. Okay, so things said in the West, things said in the East have dramatically changed the possible outcomes between the two sides of the world. Okay. Now this is curious because Assad's essentially admitted to having the chemical weapons and is now saying something along the lines of, yeah, international community, come on over, you know, take them, destroy them, whatever, fine, go for it. Which is very peaceful, very positive. The Russians seem to be on board with this idea, or at least was it them who suggested it, whatever, okay. And Assad is using language which basically makes the West look like an evil Nazi power, whereas the Middle Eastern countries and Russia are being portrayed in this light of being, you know, a beacon of truth and light and positivity, when maybe they got a few other issues going on, such as their human rights record. That's just another few things to think about. So where does this lead the pipeline? Right, because if my information is correct, which it might not be, okay, if my information is correct and that pipeline needs to be built to provide oil for Europe, if it was completed, it would be a good thing. The price of oil goes up and down, okay, with supply and demand. If Europe had a lot of supply, then the value could go lower, and everything around you is affected by oil and gas. Alright, because a lot of our energy comes from oil and gas. Let's face it. I mean, I bought a large pressure cooker a while ago. Okay, this thing was made in China. I bought it online. I didn't buy it online from China. I bought it online from a warehouse in California, and I live in England. So that one pressure cooker had like tons of jobs, all of which were very heavily dominated by oil. The thing had to be made, had to be molded out. You know, the aluminium had to be created in the first place. Then, of course, the you know, had to be molded and seals put on it, and the little pressure gauge has to be made for it as well. Then it would have to be put in some kind of storage facility until such time as it was going to be transferred over from China to the West, namely to California, and that may have been in the shipping container. You know, oil would have been used in manufacture, oil would have been used, or petrochemicals would be used to power the lighting in the form of electricity, okay. It would then have to be stored in another warehouse, temperature control conditions possibly, alright, security and all that kind of stuff, all using like telephones, walkie-talkies, all, you know, electronic equipment, all of which is dominated by oil. There's a logistics cost, namely the transport cost, affected by the price of oil, just for it to get to California. Then of course there's the internet technology. Your computer is made out of metal and plastic, okay, plastic is made out of oil, so that's another thing to think about. The computer is run on electricity. Electricity is generated by coal, oil, nuclear, of course some solar and some wind, but it's mainly still petrochemicals with some nuclear thrown in. Okay, so the cost of using the internet, the cost of using the computer itself, and of course the being able to look after the telecommunications infrastructure and having people driving vans to go out and like mend power supplies and communication cables and digging up roads so they can like sort out the broadband and fiber optic cable, that all again requires oil. And all of this is done basically so I could buy a large pressure cooker, or indeed so we can all buy a large pressure cooker. This is like the infrastructure of the world. And this is the way that business runs and operates. Now, if, again, my information is correct, that the European nations, including the United Kingdom, have a massive debt problem, personal debt problem, which is equivalent to, what's it, 4 times the GDP of the country. Personal and corporate altogether, plus national debt is over like 900% or something crazy like that. So it's so in accordance with the various things that I've been reading, which seem to be reasonably reliable economic sources, which they might not be, they may have made mistakes, all kinds of things could have happened to provide me with the information, and of course you've got to think about Chinese whispers and whether some of it's been blown up or exaggerated or embellished and the rest of it. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that that is actually correct. that the personal debts, corporate debt, national debts of the UK, let's say the UK is like that high, way up at 900%. How could you look after the economy so that things could not get more difficult? Right? What you have to do is to have a form of fuel for the economy, something to enable the economy to operate. Now, I provided you with the example of me buying this large pressure cooker. Alright, that's it. Okay? And I've demonstrated in lots of different ways, you know, all these little things which led to me being able to buy the pressure cooker. A lot of them are affected by and dominated by and influenced by oil and the value of oil, which is like, you know, the main thing for the Western world. If the value of oil went up an awful lot, it would become very difficult, alright, to be able to buy and sell things, because values of things would go up, value of production would go up, agricultural values would go up, and so on and so forth. Alright? So my question here, the thing that I've been thinking about is, and it's just like my thoughts, all I'm doing is telling you what I'm thinking. I'm not turning around to you and saying, I know everything, because I'm aware I don't. I'm aware I'm a limited human being with, you know, limited, you know, reserves of information and the rest of that. We all have our own perceptual filters, our own cognitive ways, you know, ways of processing information, and we've only been given a certain quantity of information and certain ability to be able to process that information. So essentially I could easily be wrong. But what if this pipeline in Syria is important to keep the cost of oil down for the Western countries, which in this case would be Britain and Europe? Okay? And let's say the action which Assad has taken to say, yeah, come on guys, come on over. Right. That's my chemical weapons over there, all of them, and that's all the equipment are making. You know, just come here, just take them. Take a look. There we go. So long as you don't bomb us. Maybe that's a good way for Syria to economically affect the West in a manner which could even be, well, not more detrimental, but still substantially detrimental to the economy of the Western world. So through being nice and saying, yeah, I accept what the UN wants to do and all the rest of that, yeah, just go for it, you know, is a way in which Assad, Russia and China and all the Islamic countries which are working together, or seem to be working together on the same side within certain diplomatic spheres of influence, not in every possible way, but in certain diplomatic spheres of influence, are having the upper hand against the West. Because if they can affect the supply of oil, okay, to us in Europe, and we as European nations do have this massive debt problem, which is very precarious, alright, wouldn't that have an impact upon us? Now, I could be completely wrong about this pipeline, and the facts could be very different. The facts could be that the pipeline will be completed anyway, and it's not a serious issue, and all that kind of stuff, okay? Or it could be a question of, no, Assad will stay in power, the pipeline will not get completed, or other pipelines will not get completed, and that will restrict the ability of the West to basically get the fuel that they need. The response in the West could in fact be, well, let's not worry about that too much and just do a massive fracking campaign and get tons of shale gas and use that as the fuel and work out how we can refine that into a form of fuel for cars or buses and trains and lorries and anything else which has 4, 6, 18, 16, 32 wheels, and also to go into power stations, and then, hey presto, let's start the northeast of the UK up again as a coal producer, and we'll go into the clean coal revolution. Maybe that's a possible reaction. Obviously this entire video has been, you know, a combination of speculation plus possibly a few facts thrown in, or at least things which appear to be facts taking into account my own limited knowledge. But I just thought it would be something worthwhile thinking about, that maybe, just maybe, what Assad has been doing is a very clever move to have a negative impact upon the Western world. or maybe there are similar issues to do with demand and supply of a scarce resource, which is a very key towards the maintenance of the economy in the Western world, which may be happening within the Middle Eastern regions. I have no idea whether this has been interesting or informative or useful or accurate, but I just thought I'd tell you some of the thoughts I've been having, and you can make of it whatever you see fit.